Hi everybody, welcome. My name is Lorna and I work with the team at Awareful, and I'd just like to offer a guided meditation. So finding yourself in a comfortable position, perhaps lying down on a bed or comfortably in a chair, somewhere where you won't be disturbed, and just noticing your body feeling supported by the surface beneath you. Perhaps closing your eyes and focusing inward, noticing the breath coming in and out of the nose, like the waves in the ocean, slow and rhythmic. And with every sound that you hear, becoming more and more relaxed. Just focusing in on the sound of my voice. And now just imagine yourself floating up and out of your body. Perhaps you can see yourself floating now and looking down at yourself, perhaps in the chair or on the bed. Or maybe you just get a sense of floating up, looking down at the room, and floating higher now, floating up and out of your home. So you're looking down at the rooftop, perhaps the surroundings, the roads or the garden, floating up even higher now. So you're floating up and you can see around you the streets, the buildings, the rooftops, perhaps the cars, maybe trees, floating up even higher now. So you can see the whole of the parish or area that you're living in. Floating up further and further. Perhaps you can see the beaches, floating up higher and higher. So perhaps now you can see the whole of Jersey, the whole outline, the sea surrounding the island, floating up further. So you can see the coast of France, the UK, floating even higher now, feeling light, floating up, so you can see other countries, everything becoming very small as you float even higher, flying high up into the atmosphere until you can see the curve of the earth, the whole of the world beneath you. floating up high into the atmosphere, high up, floating higher and higher until you find yourself amongst the stars. And then just imagine yourself picking two of the brightest stars, perhaps just hanging a little hammock between them, getting comfortable, resting yourself in this hammock high up between the stars, feeling calm and relaxed, feeling a sense of peace. And as you lie here relaxed, I'm going to tell you a story. A spider once lived in a dark corner of a neglected garden shed, spinning his webs and catching unwary insects. Sometimes, when waiting for food to become ensnared in his sticky web, he heard the most exquisite and fascinating songs outside of the shed. The spider would listen to them intensely, and after a while he noticed that each song was different. Some had a range of notes and others had just a few. He was intrigued to know what wonderful creature produced such sounds. Through the dusty window in the shed came beams of sunlight that illuminated floating specks of dust and strange shapes, forgotten objects. The spider spun a long thread to the window so that he could look out and discover the source of the songs. But he was disappointed to see only vague shapes, nothing of the wonders he had anticipated. But something caught his eye. In the corner of the shed was a small crack of light. The following day, the spider made another long thread and crawled his way to the crack. It was so small he began to regret the idea and wished he'd stayed in the comfort of his own corner. Too exhausted to crawl back, he fell asleep. The next morning, the same enchanted songs woke the spider. With renewed energy, making himself flat and small, he squeezed and eased himself through the crack. The spider felt a sudden chill of the cold outside air on his body and shivered. He was momentarily dazed by the brightness of the sunlight. It was both strange and worrying. What had he done? It occurred to him to crawl straight back through the crack to the safety of the shed. But his anxiety was mixed with a frisson of excitement. There was a part of him that was proud of what he'd achieved. He'd lived in the shed for such a long time, as long as he could remember. He hadn't known any other life or any other place. Looking up, the spider saw fronds waving in the breeze and dappled light playing on the tree trunk. The leaves rustled and moved. In this world, everything seemed to be dancing. The shed had been such a quiet and still, unchanging place. And then he heard it, the liquid song of a large speckled thrush singing in the branches of the tree. The spider gazed, entranced by the notes. At that moment, he decided whatever happened to him from now on, it had all been worth it, just to see and hear this magical creature. And now, finding yourself relaxed, feelings of calm and peace within you. Slowly coming out of your hammock in the stars, take our journey back to yourself, looking at the curvature of the world below you, slowly floating down, coming closer and closer. You can see the continents, the oceans beneath you, floating back down through the atmosphere. Closer and closer, seeing now the UK, floating down, coming closer so that you can just see the outline of Jersey, floating down closer, everything you can see around you now, the beaches, the town or parish, coming closer and closer, the rooftops, the cars, streets, coming closer and closer till you're floating just above your roof, floating down into the room, seeing yourself lying on the bed, perhaps seated in the chair, floating back down into your body, bringing your attention to your breath, the flow of the breath like the ocean, slow and rhythmic, in and out through the nose. That feeling of sense of peace coming back with you now, and perhaps bringing some energy back into your body, wriggling your fingers, wriggling your toes, and slowly, and when you're ready, open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Namaste.